Hey everyone, and welcome back to Bleach Brave Souls. So today guys, we're going to talk about boss killers, and what they are, how to play them, and all the different strategies that are involved in playing these characters. This might be helpful for you in your co-ops, or even in your single player missions. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, we got to address the definition of a boss killer. And the way I see it, a boss killer is any character that has a secondary effect on their special or ultimate attack. These are characters that do burn damage, that do poison damage, freeze, maybe not confuse, paralysis, and weakening. Now, I'm going to break these types of boss killer characters up into two categories. I'm going to define them as primary boss killers and secondary boss killers. Now, the secondary boss killers are characters like Baragun, Mayuri, any of the freeze characters like Toshiro, Hyurin or Sode. And I define them as secondary boss killers because their ultimate attacks will do an initial hit of damage, but after that, the status effect that it applies does not do damage itself. Rather, it has a debuff or a benefit that will be useful to the members of your team. So, characters that do freeze status effects, like Hyurin, Toshiro, or Sode, they inflict a freeze. They'll lock your enemy in place for a given amount of time. Paralysis works the same way. I believe it's Mayuri and maybe the Green Gen Ryusai. There may be a few others. If I miss anyone, I apologize. But any character that does paralysis, I will also classify as a secondary boss killer. And there is also the weakening. And weakening is applied by only two characters in the game, Baragun and Yumachika. So the weakening debuff pretty much does what it says. It makes you do more damage to your opponent. It lowers their defense, and it makes it easier to kill the boss. But like I said, it doesn't do the status effect itself does not do damage. The initial hit, like I said, will do damage, but after that, once the status effect is on, it applies no damage. So these types of characters I would classify as secondary boss killers. They make it easier for your team to win. Now, the primary boss killers are the characters that do poison damage or burn damage. And these are characters like Gin, Soifan, Silaporo, and a whole bunch of others. Even Don Kanoji can be considered a boss killer because he does burn. Now, these characters, when they use their ultimate attacks, they will inflict an initial chunk of damage, and then the status effect that's applied will continue to do a percentage of the boss's health over time. And the percentage of damage it does is quite substantial. It's important to note, guys, that the percentage of damage that these status effects inflict upon their opponents is not affected by spiritual pressure or any other stat. It's a flat percentage damage. So it doesn't change by, your accessories or your links. And that's very important to consider when you're gearing up your boss killer character. Things like tension ties, they will only increase the initial chunk of damage that your special increases. The same goes for if you level your special up to, 2 out of 5 or 3 out of 5 or whatever. It'll only affect the initial hit of damage. The status effect, the burn, the poison damage itself does not increase. That's very important to know, guys. I can't emphasize that enough. So when you're gearing your characters, that is something to consider. So basically, just to sum up, guys, a secondary boss killer applies freeze, paralysis, or weakening. A primary boss killer character applies burn or poison. You'll notice I've left out confusion. There are some characters that do the confusion effect on their specials. And I'm going to leave that off the boss killer category because it's really not that useful in PvE. Now, it's really useful in PvP, but for PvE, it makes the bosses unpredictable. So you never know where they're going to be swinging, and it's actually, I would consider it more of a hindrance than a help. You think they're going one way and then they go the other way and you get hit. So I'm not going to classify confusion characters as boss killers. Now, guys, there's also another category of boss killer effects that I have not mentioned yet, and it's the defense debuff characters. And these characters are Hueco Munda Mayuri, and I believe the swimsuit Rangiku. Not 100% sure on that, guys. Don't quote me on that. But there are characters that can apply a defense debuff against their opponents. And basically what it does is it makes it so the boss has lower defense, so you'll hit harder when you hit them. That's all it is. Now, the important thing to know about a defense debuff special attack is that it will stack on top of burn, poison, freeze, weakening, everything. You can apply that defense debuff on top of those other debuffs. So when you're playing a character that has a defense debuff, you don't need to worry about overlapping with the other special effects. So now along those lines, guys, this is very important when you're using your specials. Burn damage, all the secondary boss effects, burn damage, freeze, poison, etc., will not stack on top of each other. And guys, this is very important. I cannot emphasize this enough. If you apply a burn on a boss character, and then someone else immediately uses their special, which has poison, the poison damage will be lost. Because there is already a burn on the enemy. So, the poison damage just vanishes into nothing. So, guys, this brings me into the next topic on when and how to use your ultimate attack. So, say, for example, you have 2 soul bombs, and you're going up against the boss enemies. What you're going to want to do is use your first special, and then wait until the status effect has fully run its course. Once the status effect is over, then do your next special. Depending on the character, it's different amounts of time, but you just look for the particle effects on the boss. You'll see them, if they're poisoned, they'll be purple. You're going to want to wait until that purple glow wears off, and then do your second attack. This way you maximize the amount of damage your ultimate move does. If you don't do this, you're just pretty much wasting a special. Bottom line. Like I said before, though, the exception to this is the defense debuff. The defense debuff will go on top of anybody that's burned, poisoned, weakened, frozen, or whatever. Alright, so we've gone over what the boss killers are, the primary and the secondary boss killers, how to use your special, and now I want to talk about who should take the soul bomb in co-op. Now, guys, this is not going to apply to every single situation, because every single situation is usually different. You'll have a different group makeup, or you'll have different skill levels of players, and all those things do play into your decisions. But a general rule of thumb is to let someone who is playing a primary boss killer have the special. These specials will do massive amounts of damage, and they're really the most efficient way of killing the boss. Next on the list, you would have the secondary boss killers. The guys like Barrigan, the guys like Toshiro or Sode. These characters will make it easier for your team to do damage and kill the enemy, but it's not actually going to do damage itself. The ultimate attack of these characters, the status effect that is applied, will not actually do damage. So, if you're in a team with a bunch of Kenpachis or a bunch of really heavy hitters, you're going to love having a secondary boss killer in that group. So, for example, say you're a Barrigan and you're playing with, 2 Kenpachis and, maybe a Dangai Ichigo. You're going to want to take that special and hook everybody up. Because when you apply that special, those guys are going to hit like trucks. It's really amazing. The difference is night and day. Now, of course, there's exceptions to this rule. When you're in random co-op groups, it could be that, you're playing with boss killers who are underleveled, or, guys you don't trust to do the right thing in the right situation. And that's really based on intuition. If you feel that you're in a group like that, all bets are off. If you feel like somebody's going to die before they get to the last room, use your judgment, take the special. Especially if they're underleveled. If you feel like the guy you're playing with is not going to make it to the last room and the special bomb is going to be wasted, you make that call at that time. Take the special if you have low confidence in your teammates or anything like that. Of course, there are also situations where there's multiple boss killers or there's a healer that has a special ultimate heal, and those are also situational. If you're with a healer and the whole team is low when you get to the boss room, consider letting the healer take the soul bomb, just to be safe. You'll still have the one you started with, if you haven't used it already. The same thing goes with the secondary and primary boss killers. A lot of times you'll go into a co-op group with a primary and a secondary boss killer. And in that case, it's a toss-up. Do you have confidence in the other player? What is their special effect? Who else is in the team? Do you have Kenpachis in the team? Do you have Dangais in the team? In the case where there's a lot of strong characters in your team, the secondary boss killer taking the special is not a problem. But if you're in a co-op room with weaker players, you're going to want to give it to the primary boss killer. So, every situation is different, guys, so use your judgment. There are no general rules of thumb. Alright, so pretty much we've gone over most everything about the boss killer strategy. There's one more thing I wanted to talk about, and it's certain characters, they have special attacks or ultimate attacks that need to be aimed. And guys, these are characters like Sode, I believe, and maybe Academy Renji, and their ultimate moves do not hit the entire screen. So in this case, guys, you're going to want it to the best of your ability. Wait until all the bosses are grouped up in a clump before you apply your special. That way you hit all of them. I know that sometimes this is hard to do because of lag or because people are running around all over the place. But just do your best with it. Try to hit all the bosses with your special. This pretty much goes without saying. Don't just come into the room immediately and use your special. Wait for the right timing, and it'll be more effective. Some people they come into the boss room as soon as the boss room starts. They'll hit their special, and it'll miss 2 out of the 3 bosses. In that case, you've just wasted your special because people will still have to dodge. People will still have to move around, and you won't be able to get the full benefit of that special. I think I've covered pretty much everything, guys. One more thing to mention about the Barragan and the weakening special effects. In case you didn't know this, guys, when a character is weakened by Barragan or Yumichika, they only do 1 damage to you. So this is the time to go all out. You don't have to dodge anything. Just run in there and do as much damage as possible before the effect wears off. Now, keep in mind that once the effect wears off, they're immediately going to start, smashing your face. So try and time it so that you're out of there by the time the debuff wears off. The same thing with freeze and paralysis and all those other ones that kind of incapacitate the boss for a limited amount of time. And one last thing, guys. A lot of the raids these days, they'll have 2 waves of boss enemies. So you're going to want to plan your specials, with that in mind. So for example, if you have 2 bosses in the first wave and then a really powerful 1 solo boss in the next wave, you might want to, save 1 for each wave. Depending on your group and depending on how they're doing at that time, you want to plan your strategy based on that. Alright guys, so that's about it for boss killers. I hope it gave you some new information. I hope it helps your gameplay and your raid success. We're going to end this video off by doing a few summon tickets. I'm going to do 10 silver ones and 1 Brave Souls. I have a ton of these tickets saved up, but I actually do need a few to use a few because I have 6-star characters that need ascensions. So let's go ahead and do a premium summons ticket multi. I have 448 of these silver tickets, but I'm really doubtful that I'll get a 5-star even if I use every single one of them. Let's see here. We'll just skip through this. Let's see what we get real quick. I'll just take a quick look. Okay, bunch of 3 stars. A lot of Hisagi. Alright guys, we're going to do one of the red, white, and blue tickets. These have a pretty good chance of giving you a 5-star, so let's try it out. I bet you with 23 of these, I have a really high chance of getting 1 5-star. But I'm going to do them one at a time and just save them for, when I need stuff. Alright, 4-star this time. Alright guys, so door need to end the video. I hope I did a good job of explaining boss killers to you. Let me know if you have any further questions in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.